So, Neeraj, one of the things I found with what you do today, you are also a global ambassador for the Stanford Center for Longevity, which
Correct.
is a very interesting uh, piece of work that you do, and that's also very closely related to the company that you run. And I wanted to really understand what does Stanford Center of Longevity work on, and how is it relevant to today's work and career?
Again, I can I think you're asking questions which are making me think, Swami. So let me, so let me start by why I joined Stanford Center on Longevity, right? And then I think, I also realized that I have more simple answers to complicated questions. So maybe I'm not sure if that what your audience may like, but my simple answer is I joined Stanford on Longevity because I could, right? So someone recommended my name. They said, you guys are doing some of this cool work for the last 13 years. Neeraj is someone that you should consider as an ambassador because he is an ambassador already. It'll be and plus he's from Stanford, so that will be good. And so the reason so we are the second cohort of ambassadors for Stanford Center on Longevity. The first cohort was Stanford's way of saying, look, we've been doing some cool work, but we have no way of getting feedback back in, because in a way everything we are doing is us telling everybody what it should be, but at the end the reality is it has to be implemented. The reality is that it has to have real world impact, not just theoretical stuff that we talk about. And so they now then came up with the second cohort, and the second cohort came by asking the first cohort, who would you like to recommend who's working in this space? So that's how I think 15 of us got picked, and we sort of showed up. The first time we all met was, we did some online stuff, but they have something called the Century Summit every year, which means, and again it's linked to 100-year life, so that's why it's called Century Summit. And of course you've talked about the new map of life, which is what they've come up with, which is the basis of what we do. But that's how we got in. Now, after we all got in, we realized now we're going to do something also. But the cool thing about Stanford is they allow you to explore, find out, and do things together. So what has happened is, and then I'll answer your question specifically on work and life and all of that. But what has happened is, we've all got together, we've created small teams on different aspects. And now we are working on those aspects to bring it to the real world. As an example, so I am a part of what they call the workforce team. There are 7 or 8 of us, I think 8 of us in this team. We are all in different parts of the world. We bring our perspectives of what we are learning. We take what we can from what we've heard from Stanford and say, okay, now what does this mean? And honestly, the Stanford umbrella allows us more access, which allows us to come together and do things and then go back to organizations to say, look, this is what you should be doing, and this is how, if you do this, this fits in better with the new map of life. So for example, I'm a part of 2 work streams. One Tiger team is this workforce Tiger team, and for some reason I've gotten pulled into the media Tiger team, right? And is how we call it, where we are exploring how do we leverage media personalities to enhance or strengthen narratives for longevity.
Why longevity?
I think that's the theme, right? The Stanford Center on Longevity. But I think you asked a much more pertinent question, so which in a way links to why I started Wisdom Circle. So I'm actually now, because you asked this question on longevity, I'm now going to take a step back and then answer those questions around how I see work. And one of the things that I realized about 4 or 5 years ago was everyone I spoke to was talking about longevity, right? And so whenever you talk about aging, people are talking about how to live longer. So there's a lot of investment going on in science, there's a lot of investment going on in multiple areas on how do we make humans live longer. Not enough work was being done on what will you do if you live longer. And while you're doing that, in the middle comes AI. Now AI is saying you don't even, whatever you are doing, even that you don't need to do. Right? So now we have a double-edged sword, and literally people are saying universal basic income. Like, what will people do? How do you restructure humanity? At one level, Stanford is working on how do you get younger people ready to live. Like, what they're basically saying is any kid that is being born today has a very high likelihood of touching 100, right? Without much changes to, except, health and diet and, how you sort of take care of yourself, etc. But it's a very real problem that is going to face humanity. We are giving better healthcare, there's better medicines, there's better knowledge. AI is going to tell us what to do. We're all going to live longer. But then we'll be like, so let me define what that future looks like. We will be depressed, agers who the only thing we will be able to do is look at other agers and tell them what, I'm just saying, I can't even imagine, it's going to be crap, right? It's like you want to die, but nobody is letting you die, right? And you still have to live. Now the question is, kya karo, what, how much television, how much what? So, and then you start working backwards, which now let's answer your question about the role of, and I think, how did you define it? Work, learn and earn.
Correct.
And so where do you want to start?